Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
All right. Welcome back. Oh, actually, I guess we're not going to do any pre-show shenanigans today, but it's fine.
I mean, we don't need to, but we're all here.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Talking About the Big Stuff, where we're going to talk about late-stage capitalism and the ritual of the Church of Black Friday.
Yep. Yeah. And just in case you're wondering, Alex went to that bar that he's wearing the hat for yesterday because he's in Chicago right now.
I did, yes. 3 Dots and a Dash. It is one of the best just bars, but it's also it's one of the top tiki bars in the entire country, run by real cocktail nerds, for real cocktail nerds, and nerds as in like some of the cocktails are from the 40s and 50s from Don the Beachcomber and other historic people in tiki culture. And it's in the middle of an alleyway. So I thought that's pretty cool. Welcome all. Happy to be here from my lovely hotel room on the Magnificent Mile.
Yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about late stage capitalism. This episode's going out on Black Friday, so it felt like the perfect time to talk about it. Late stage capitalism is something that I personally have alluded to my displeasure of in this show before. I don't think we've done. I've never done like a full like socialism episode, although
we've touched on it topic-wise, but we've never done like a full. Yeah,
I struggle with the idea of the whole argument of, you know, I would say that I'm a social democrat, and there's a lot of socialist things that I appreciate, enjoy, would fight for, but I still have a little bit of hesitancy to call myself a full-on socialist. And part of that is because I think that we live in a capitalist society, and capitalism isn't inherently the problem. It is just currently, in its current fashion, a problem. So, like, to give you an example, you know, like capitalism is anything where you're making money, basically, right? Like, your products or services making money. And so the idea of late stage capitalism, I Googled it just to give you an idea, all of our readers or our readers, all of our listeners, an idea. You can tell that I've been writing a lot when I'm talking about readers.
Yes.
I'm working deep into novel number 2. So late stage capitalism is a term often used critically to describe the current phase of capitalism characterized by globalization, extreme wealth inequality, commodification of nearly all aspects of life, and environmental destruction. So obviously climate change gets thrown is part of that, like the fact that we're leaving this big problem to deal with. The commodification part of all aspects of life is something that I think people overlook sometimes, which is like water is a human right idea. And
I was about to say the ability to have every last thing monetized
in the last 10
10-ish years. Yeah, 10
the
to
last
15
10 to
years.
15 years, I heard someone saying that they want to take all the national, and this wasn't necessarily a big voice, but it was a voice that had a bigger platform than you and I do. I don't remember who it was, but they said they want to take all the national parks and commodify them. And I mean, we do there. You know, there's an entrance fee, but that's to upkeep. That's not that. The national park system is probably not making much of a profit. It's just to make sure it's to make sure that
it's like a self-sustaining admission fee.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not it's not a to make a profit admission fee. And actually, my wife and I went to the Shed Aquarium.
Yeah.
And same kind of thing. There is no way at $40-something a head they're actually covering us being there. But then you get to the gift shop, and that's where all the rest of the actual incomes. You know,
and I have no problem with that kind of capitalism with the gift shop, because ultimately those people that need to make a living that are working it, and I don't know, like you said, $40 for admission fees. I don't know how much that actually covers in all of that.
Not much, I would think.
And you know, so like that's what the idea is with late stage capitalism. But capitalism in itself has been around for centuries, probably millennia. in some way or another. So it's not that capitalism itself is a problem, and it's just that we've gotten to the nth degree of it now. And there is no day that is more, in America, there is no day that is more symbolic of how far we've gone than Black Friday.
Very true.
Because, I mean, so I worked retail for a little over a decade. I have a lot of problem with the idea of Black Friday as a retail worker, as a former
Mhm.
retail worker, because I know that, like, depending on what state you're in and what the retailer you work for is, some people are getting ready at midnight uh,
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving, and it's like, okay, so you wanted a TV for $5 off so badly that you were like, okay, well, fuck everybody else's Thanksgiving. And
Hmm.
that's what the holiday has become to me. And it used to drive me crazy when my coworkers would be like, I had a later shift today, so I was out early. I was at 5 a.m. at Walmart, and I was like, okay, so you're evil. Like, you know that this is bad, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
M-
yeah,
I was in retail during the holiday season, just like you probably were, and specifically in consumer electronics. And you were just mentioning the television for $5 off. That is a fantastic um, uh, uh, description's a good word, but even example. And I'll elaborate on it and make it even worse. Very often, the models of these televisions and electronics that are attractive to buyers on days like Black Friday are not the same ones that are carried the entire rest of the
yeah,
year. Even more importantly, they might be specifically manufactured just for that event with specific SKU numbers and model numbers that do not exist the entire rest of the year.
hmm
And when I worked at Best Buy, was the one I worked at, it was always it was always the real folks who would have no problem helping you load it up if you bought two of them, but we would never buy it. And the reason we would never buy it is we knew it was missing some features. It was not built as well. And you could even tell when they would
yeah,
come into the receiving of the store I worked at. It was a very large store in Western North Carolina. It was one of the largest in the area. They would not even be treated to the same level that the regular stock items were.
hmm
They would be a little more roughly handled and everything. So there was even situations where customers would get in line to
hmm
get $100 off a television that is almost not worth its sticker because they've been given the impression that they're getting a deal. And one of the downsides to late stage capitalism, and this is the part I like the least, is the general feeling that it gives everybody that I've got to get one over on the man.
hmm
And if I can get that television that's 55 inches for $200 off, haha, I stuck it to him. And then Samsung is the one laughing all the way to the bank because you just bought scrap bin parts from last year's guts in this year's plastic case, and they're making a profit still on you. So
hmm
the general feeling that I've got to get one over because everybody else has stacked wealth around me to higher than I could ever achieve. That's one of my least favorite parts about capitalism. But one of my favorite parts is how it drives innovation. So if you look at European countries that have single payer healthcare, but the single payer is a private company, you're kind of in this situation that, yeah, the single payer has to keep innovation up, but doesn't have all the capitalism downsides where they're just trying to drive their drug to the bottom dollar. They still have to innovate because if they don't, the government's going to pick a different company.
right.
So there's kind of that
Oh yeah,
situation, like
cat.
there's not only
That's
one company that makes TVs,
that. Yeah, that's the part of a huge part of the capitalism problem. The current capitalism problem
Yeah.
is this the thing that really has killed a lot of it is monopolies, and we don't want,
Hmm.
we have antitrust laws that are supposed to work, but they don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
like
And
and
even in our country, some states are better at it than others.
yeah,
So the antitrust laws and the consumer protection laws in California are better than any other state in this country.
yeah,
But if you don't live in California, you could be getting screwed in comparison to just over the state line from, say, Nevada.
right,
You'd be way worse off.
right. And so I'm going to blame consumers for a second, because I
It's
think
all your fault, all
yeah,
of you.
So one of the things that we as consumers have as a problem is that we want everything and we want to pay
Yeah.
for nothing. And
It devalues stuff so
it
bad.
does, but and another problem with that is like, so you get Walmarts, and eventually Walmarts were replaced by Amazon, and all of that was replacing the, going down to your local bookstore or your local hardware store, or whatever it was, and
Yeah.
the price, because those places couldn't compete price wise, but those places, the people who want to bitch about this most often are the ones who are talking about everybody taking everybody's job. And it's like, well, the things you do devalue everybody's wages, and you
Hmm.
want to make more money, but you want nobody else to make. So you don't want to pay anything. And it's like, that's not how
Right.
it
And you
works.
still want to pay the least
So,
amount possible. You think the way to get
mhm,
wealthy is by paying bottom dollar for every product or service you consume,
right.
whereas
It's
in
an
fact, it's really
ecosystem.
the inverse.
It's an ecosystem. And so you have to
Yeah.
kind of say, okay, well, I can't afford big screen TV, or my third big screen TV, because
Right. Exactly. My third.
I'm not willing to pay $400 for a $900 a TV that should be $900, because I don't want
Could be.
slave labor in China, or
You,
wherever.
you can't have both.
You cannot have both.
You can't have
And we
both.
and we're in a society where, unfortunately, unless you're like an absolute minimalist, you are participating in
You're getting
some
into it
way.
somehow.
the
Yeah.
pro the thing is to be intentional and thoughtful with it. There, to try to minimize the amount we're doing in that way. So you see things like shop local, and shop local is a great idea in a lot of ways, and shop small. I think it's the day after Black Friday, so tomorrow, if you're listening to us, is that shop local day, or is it small business Saturday, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. It's Small
Small
Business Saturday. Yeah.
um yeah, and so like that is a day to go, it's kind of the anti Black Friday, right? It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's Christmas is coming, and we want you to, we know that you want to buy presents for your family and your friends, but you don't have to go to Amazon or Target or Walmart or whatever. And I
You
will
don't.
say, I have been. I used to refuse to go shopping at all on Black Friday. Now, what Sarah and I do is we typically get bored in the house by like 5 or 6 p.m. and we're like, okay, we'll
Yeah.
just go wander around at Target. But at that point, A, we're not fighting people, and B, it's like, if there's anything left, we're just curious. Like, we're not engaging in Black Friday the same way.
No.
It's usually just like, we've been in the house for 2 days because of Thanksgiving and we want to get out. um,
Basically.
so, but Saturday, November 29th is Small Business Saturday, and that's a great way. And there's all kinds of things. Wherever you are in America, there's going to be something. And that, like, when I think about Christmas gifts, other than like for kids, like my mom would love, like, have no other term for it, little knickknack shit, right? But the little knickknack shit is better from small businesses, right? You're going to go to an artisan who takes toothpicks and makes little, manger scenes or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
that's why, like, when I say, like, I'm not anti-capitalist, I am anti late stage capitalism, because it is, it's just getting further and further out from, it's separating the wealth gap. But
Yeah.
and there's no reason for it. Like, arguably, you're just getting shittier stuff. If you go to a small business, you're going to get something that's like handcrafted. It's not, I worked like a local market kind of thing this past
Hmm.
weekend. Not this past weekend for you listeners, but for me and Alex this past weekend. And there was a lot of people around, but like the woman next to me, it was her first time doing a booth, and she was a potter, and she was selling bongs, and they were $25 to $35 for these really nice, like, she had flowers in them, so that, like, they looked like flower pieces, but then they were really
Oh,
nice bongs.
I love
And
it.
it's like, yeah, you could go order something that was made by a machine, and it might be $5 to $10 less, but like, that is we got one for somebody for Christmas. I won't say who on the podcast, but we bought one
Yeah.
for someone living in a state where it's legal. But like it was really good. Like that's the kind of thing that you want to support people, and it's tough when you hear people that don't understand the connection between the money we spend and the money other people make. Like, I want to make
And
money, but I don't want to pay anybody any money, and that's not how it works. And that
no,
is how the mega billionaires kind of seem to be, is like, I'm going to get all the money, but they have the power to do it that way, and we need to take that power away from them by helping each other. We need to be an ecosystem at the bottom, since the top
yeah,
has kind of left our ecosystem.
correct. And in the same way that we talk on talking about the big stuff, or at least I've said many times over, that the people in your local government have more of an effect on your everyday life than the ones that make the TV ticker and the TV news. At the same time, spending money to and from and within your local environment is going to have a bigger effect in the same way on the people in your local environment than if you were to purchase something on Amazon. Yeah, okay, maybe it's delivered by a person who lives in your area,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily in any real way
Yeah.
affecting the wealth in your specific community. Whereas I am a shareholder and an investor in a distillery that's in Durham, North Carolina. They happen to make a world award-winning whiskey that has gone to the San Francisco Spirits Competition and won gold and double gold and best of show. But it doesn't mean that I don't also buy stuff that's made in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So but at the same time, because of the way North Carolina does its spirits, it's all local and immediately has tax revenue that supports the schools and other things. But either
Doesn't mean you
way,
have to buy everything local. You can't.
it doesn't
There's
mean
no
you
there's
can
no North
balance.
Carolina cell phones that I'm aware of, and like,
Right. And
but again, like, you buy
you've
your
got to
bongs
balance.
local, and
Yeah. But buy your drugs and your whiskey local, or buy your
but
drug apparati
yeah.
locally.
But here's the other thing about that people don't seem to understand, which is, so like, go back to the woman that's doing the pottery, for example.
Mhm.
Let's say she would be making $50,000 doing some other job, regular job, right? Which 50,000 is not bad, but let's say she's making 60,000 doing pottery. And
She's going to stay doing pottery.
well, no. But what I was going to say
You
is,
know?
she's going to put, if you're under a certain amount of money, and 60,000 is under that amount of money, you are
Mhm.
spending every dime you have all the time.
Also true. Yeah.
So it's going back into the economy. Paying, like, when, like, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or any other billionaire, they're paying a fraction of the money back into the system that they're making. Even
Even in the states that they live in,
Mhm.
they're still not
Yeah.
contributing that
And I
much
don't even mean
to where they even.
taxes. I mean, like, just percentage wise. So, like, if you
No,
make,
no, yeah.
yeah,
They're not spending money in their local restaurants the
right,
same that you and I are. No,
yeah. So, they
no.
talk about it. If we have, 10% of America or 20% of America is making under. It's, if we looked at the actual number where you're spending every dime you make, basically, if
Yeah.
we looked at that actual percentage, it would probably be like closer to 40 or 50%.
Yeah, I was about to
If
say probably, yeah,
if everyone that's in
40
that
or 50.
bracket of I spend everything gets a $10,000 bump and is still kind of having to spend everything, to, like,
Hmm.
that means that is 50% plus 10 of 10,000 for every single person going back into the economy, as
Yep.
opposed to, so, like, that's a huge reason why you have to start thinking about it this way, as, like, I am not going to go buy a $2 thing that should be $10, or a $400 TV that should be 900, because ultimately that is, like you just said, going to Samsung or going to whoever, and what is going back into the economy of that is, a fraction of it.
A
Whereas,
fraction. Yeah.
whereas, I mean, even at the tax brackets we're at, I don't know for sure, but, like, we're in a we're still in, we are upper lower middle class. Is that what we're going to call ourselves? Upper lower
Sure.
middle class or whatever. We're in that group of, like, I mean, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, because I don't have paychecks now. With Sarah's, with Sarah's job, and my hope hopefully growing income, but like we're not at that like poverty stage of it.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean you're not still basically spending all your money. And so like or 95%. And so
Yeah,
95% plus 10,000 is still a good go. Whereas if it's 5% and then you make an extra 10 million and you're, you know, on your $100 million a year, you're not spending an extra $10 million.
exactly. You're not all of a sudden even spending half of that additional salary or additional income. And with our friend elongated muskrat becoming what is probably going to be the world's first trillionaire because of his stock package and his dividends benefit that he's going to get from Tesla if he meets those pretty lofty expectations. Just what you just mentioned, wherever he happens to live, which at this time I think he claims Texas is home,
Yeah.
he's not going to spend another $1 million in the local Texas economy. No.
No.
So my other big concern, speaking of buying the higher quality item, how much waste do your less durable items cause in the grand scheme of things, to the point that it's harming the environment with all the waste? And many of these items that are inexpensive to make, glass is infinitely recyclable.
Mm-hmm.
Most metals are infinitely, or some metals are infinitely recyclable. Plastic is not the same way. And in the same kind of way, nor is all that inexpensive things that are being made. So, like you said, you could spend $20 or $30, even $50 on that glass pipe and get way more use. And you just gave meals to a family.
Mm-hmm.
You just put money directly into that local economy.
Yeah.
You could go on AliExpress and get a glass pipe and even get it shipped for half of what you spent. And the amount of damage to the environment, the fuel, the energy, the money, the economy that you just bolstered that is in metropolitan China, there is just so much that you're not really benefiting from.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't like late stage capitalism. I am not saying that capitalism is even the issue. It's unchecked
Well,
capitalism.
that's a factor
You
in
know,
late
like
stage.
you got to get the guardrails on it, because
Mm-hmm.
if you did, these people would be forced to start spending more money.
Yeah. And the free
They,
hand of
they,
the
they just
market
would.
idea is maybe it was a thing that was actually possible 100 years
Mhm.
ago. We are beyond the point where
We are
that
so
can
far
be,
beyond that. Yeah.
where you know, like maybe it's because we stopped using the free hand, but the free hand's no longer available. Like that is not a thing that's ever going to
Oh,
correct.
someone bit that hand off
Yeah.
decades ago.
So when you look at when the other thing, when you look at like what you were talking about with non-recyclable stuff is this current version, and you hear old people bitch about it all the time, but the old people are usually the same ones that want all the capitalist shit to be the way it is built-in
Because they say they're
obsolescence.
unfixed income. Yeah, built-in up. Yep. I
Built-in
was literally about
obsolescence
to
is
mention that.
creating this huge problem in a couple
Yep.
ways. One is, like you said, it's, you know, like we're going through shit more often, but also like
Mhm.
if you're, you know, I'm guilty of having an iPhone. Like every 2 years, like it's like the second you pay the thing off, it's starting to die, and that's almost certainly like they want you to buy a new one. I'm old enough that like, okay, I'm talking to you on an Apple computer,
Mhm.
and I've had it for 4 years and it's doing okay, but the
Mhm.
battery started to go the other day. I was like, oh shit, I might need a new one soon. And
Uh-oh.
my Apple that I got when I graduated high school to go to college with lasted
Mhm.
like 10 years. Like, and it only stopped working because I accidentally dropped it, and the fan was just like super loud, and you know, but like it like if I have it in there in my closet somewhere, if I went and like found the plug, it would turn on. It sounds like a jet's taking off, but it would turn on. And so like, you know, and yes, it was as expensive as this one that I have in
I
front
was
of me
about
that
to
I'm
say
talking
the
about.
relative cost is probably just as
Right.
high.
So
Yeah.
it's not like we've gotten cheaper ones in that process. We've gotten cheaper quality, and it's, I call out Apple in two things, but like it's so many things.
Yeah.
Now, like
I have been a big, and speaking of Musk, we as in this world, specifically the US, we haven't had to dispose with a lot of those lithium batteries that are in these EVs yet, have we? No. That is going to be a big, just economic and ecological impact because batteries are not recyclable. There's recyclable elements in them,
Yeah.
but most of what's in these EV batteries, which for those of you that are not as technically inclined, it's like the entire underside of the car.
Yeah.
It's the whole length of it, and it weighs a frickin' ton. And it's got to go somewhere because, like you mentioned, the batteries deplete over time
Mhm.
because their overall headroom, the amount of charge they can hold, lessens over time. It's natural aging of a battery cell.
Mhm.
Where are these going to go? What's going to happen with all these batteries? We have enough problem with throwing out laptops and phones.
That's another thing that that's become a problem in this version of capitalism is innovation used to be like kind of constant and like
Yeah,
and so
it
like
slowed down considerably.
like A leads to B leads to C leads to D. Now if we had gas cars, and gas cars were are their own huge big problem, uh and um they started to like they had there was that whole documentary Who Killed the Electric Car about like mid 90s electric cars that were starting to make some room in California, and like they bought up a bunch of patents and
hmm
took care of that, so that was a problem. Then eventually it was like, oh, we have to deal with this, and I think that even the car manufacturers kind of started to realize we have to deal with the
Yeah.
environmental impact, so we started to move forward on electric, but electric should never have been the solution. I almost said the final
The
one.
genuine solution.
It
No,
should not. It's a makeshift, because what it's
it
doing
is a stopgap.
what it's doing to the environment is, you'll hear Republicans and conservatives talk about like the lithium mining all the day long, and it's like, yeah, first of all, not all pollution is climate change pollution. A
Mm-mm.
and B, like if I go throw a Snickers wrapper on the ground, it's a piece of shit move, but it's not necessarily affecting the environment the same way, right?
It's true.
And the lithium mining is kind of the same thing. And the lithium mining should have been, this is while we work on figuring out hydrogen. This is while we
I was
work
about
out
to
what
say
we're
hydrogen.
figuring
Yep.
out. I don't love natural gas fracking, but like that was something that we'd never looked into fully. Like we have to be constantly innovating forward. And what we cannot do is let EV do to the next thing what gas manufacturers originally did to EVs, because we
Yeah.
don't have the extra time. Like
No.
when you look at the early days of cars, there was every couple of years there was something new, and
hmm
technology has kind of gone into like a stasis in a lot of fields, and like
Even with the
because
phones that you're mentioning, the upgrades to the next iPhone or the next Samsung Galaxy,
Mhm.
they feel
Yeah.
smaller and less incremental
Oh,
each
it's
time.
a megapixel higher. It's, oh, we got a better camera on the front this time. Oh, um, and like,
And specifically to Apple, y'all are manufacturing your own silicon now. Don't try to tell me that that costs any more than buying it from someone else like Motorola, like you used to, or Intel, like you used to. For example, I bet your MacBook is Apple Silicon, the one you're using now. I bet the
it's,
one in that closet is Intel. You
oh,
can't tell me that Intel didn't charge more to Apple for those chips than Apple's making them themselves now.
yeah,
So even like the cost of those wafers. So I have a general belief that the cost to make these items has decreased, but it doesn't mean that it got any less expensive for us as consumers. And at the same time, if you haven't continued to grow your margin, but then because you make more of it yourself and you're vertically integrating, you've actually reduced your cost.
yeah,
Where's the meals for kids? Where's the, now that I'm in Chicago and can talk about this, where's the fantastic public transport system? Because here it's great. In North Carolina, it's a joke in comparison. Like getting a
yeah,
bus to work here is easy. And they're all hybrid buses. They're
yeah.
not
I
even
mean,
all
but
like diesel
if you go
buses,
to
you know?
Charlotte, it's a lot better than Raleigh area.
that light rail. Don't start me on that
They have
fucking thing.
buses too. They have a good bus
They have
system.
good.
So
Yeah, they have much better buses than Raleigh does. I'm
we're just a
using.
such smaller. Yeah, I understand what your point is.
It's the real idea that the commodification has caused pollution to not just be environmental
Hmm.
and not just be like ecological pollution.
Yeah.
It has gotten to the point of polluting other markets and elements as well.
Oh yeah, and it's absolutely affecting things outside of our education system is a fucking joke because we want to privatize that, which is really just so we don't have to have any regulations on it, right? And then we want to do
And so we can give
and
vouchers for kids to go to
I,
Jesus school.
I remember I worked at Verizon for 5 years, and I was in so many stupid fucking meetings, and everybody bought the lines. And I'm like, did you guys? I actually went to I went to a private school, that I don't think was really that much better. I think it was one of those deals of like, we're not going to teach you about sex, but we're also not going to have like money for phys ed and stuff.
Right.
So like,
Well,
so
you
like,
and I grew up in the Northeast where
yeah,
private schools are much more common.
right,
We
right,
live in the Southeast now where private schools are really only for the most wealthy or the most restrictive or religious.
mm,
You and I grew up, or at least I know I did in Connecticut, where half of my middle school, I
yeah,
lost friends because they all went to private boys or just all boys or all girls schools.
yeah,
So single gender schools are still popular when I
oh yeah,
was in high school. So yeah,
but
privatized education.
yeah.
Stop
But
it.
I worked at Verizon, and while I was at Verizon, I did not have my bachelor's degree yet. I had dropped out and was in the process of going back, and I worked with a lot of because I keep in mind that I started there around 2008 when the bubble, so there was a lot of well-educated people working at
Yeah,
Verizon. This wasn't, I know that there's going to be like a lot of people speculating like, oh, but there was a lot of people with bachelor's degrees and
I was about to
higher
say.
working because it was a shitty economy that it was
Oh,
collapsing.
like it's getting to be now,
Hmm.
where people with like genuine bachelors and
Yeah.
masters
And
could serve you your next coffee.
yeah, and I would sit next to people in these meetings that we would have where they would these people would have business degrees, and we'd be listening to the managers and sometimes the district managers, or like you'd be watching like the town hall kind of communications, and they'd be talking about how uh last year we made $10 billion as a company. This year we're making $8 billion, which means we've lost $2 billion. And I'm like, that's not how math works. Like, that's not how that works. You $10 billion of profit means you made $10 billion of profit. $8 billion of profit means you made $8 billion. You have a $2 billion decline in profit, not a $2 billion loss. But they would say it, and because
Yeah,
they knew that there was enough people that were just like there, not thinking about it.
eight
To
less than 10. That's a loss. We need to try harder,
yeah,
guys.
I'm gonna make up for it with selling my belt clips for
Right?
phones. I'm
Yep.
going to sell an extra car charger for my phone, and that's going to help make up the $2 billion deficit that Verizon's in. And I remember, and like, keep in mind, like I said, I was arguably the least educated person, and I was like, this
And
doesn't
you
make any
didn't buy
fucking
it.
sense, guys. Like,
Right.
what are they
Right.
talking about? It's simple math. And it's unfortunate, but sometimes when you behave crazy, even if you make sense, everyone ignores you. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm right, guys. I am 100% right. And they were all like, why are you questioning it? They pay our checks. And I'm like,
I mean, so does a local morgue. You want to go work there, you know? So
they're not
I,
hiring men anymore. Most of the local morgues.
okay, good point. So I really feel that the late stage part of it is definitely the nastier part, and I feel the wage gap, not men women. I mean like the income disparity is probably the better way to explain it. Where I was talking to my wife. It was probably 2 weeks ago, before we packed to leave, and I was saying that if everybody had Like you knew every soul that you looked in, every pair of eyes you connected with on a daily basis was making at least blank amount of money because there was a structure that the government had to close the gap to a minimum line so that there's literally not a human under poverty. it it not only lessens that disparity where because I drive a nicer car, that doesn't mean that I did any better than you. It means I'm just maybe better connected than you, is kind of how that feels now, especially to me who is not working. But then at the same time, it hasn't stopped me from aspiring for these things.
Mhm.
So you're always going to have those folks who want to take advantage of a specific policy system or situation,
Yeah.
but with a giant wage gap or disparity between even like you were mentioning the person who serves you your coffee or sells you your belt clip to I'm going to be eating at a Michelin star restaurant tonight, and there is a good chance that I'm going to be served by someone with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, and there is a chance that the only real like hardcore passionate food people are going to be ones I don't even see in the back of the kitchen. Those are going to be the people who are like, this is my calling, this is what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
That dining experience I'm going to have is inaccessible to so many people because that wage disparity is just so large. And the more of these kind of things we have that tries to shrink that, the better capitalism is going to serve what it's good at, which is pushing, people to innovate, pushing companies to be competitive. When there's no competition, it doesn't make it better.
Mhm.
When we had, speaking of working in the cell phone industry, because I did too, I worked in the mobile industry for a while. When we had 4 and 5 different major carriers in the US, they were fighting at each other for technology, for speed, for features, for plans, for pricing. Now there's like two,
Mhm.
Verizon and T-Mobile. And I'm not
Mhm.
going to say that there aren't others, but those are the bigger players next to AT&T, which is owned by DirecTV. So they're not even technically just a mobile phone company anymore. So they even got swallowed up.
Mhm.
So yeah, capitalism can be super chill and great. And it makes places like Three Dots and a Dash exist where I can pay $18, $19 for a cocktail. But it doesn't mean that capitalism shouldn't make it so that any folks can go have this.
Yeah.
Anybody can go experience this
And so I what
because of that gap.
yeah, I wanted to talk about something for a second that you're kind of almost getting to, which is that
I'm good at dancing around.
no, I don't know that you're trying to, but you're almost there. So something that has existed in all versions of capitalism, as far as I know, is that the people at the top are good at kind of making the people at the bottom work against their own best interest, or
Yeah.
like turning each other against each other. I'm
Hmm.
sure it happened with serfs back in uh, when there was serfdoms and stuff. I'm sure that was going on. But even if you look at like 100 years ago with unions and like a
Oh, yeah.
spreading, like that's a communist thing and like that's
Hmm.
anti-American and like fight those people. And now the way that we're doing it, because because of some of this technology and because of some of the things that are going on, there is an opportunity for more people to kind of dig their way out in some ways.
Yeah, there is.
And like it used to be that was really gate kept. So that was sports and that was,
Yeah.
there was certain things. Now, because of YouTube and a bunch of other things, there's some options for people. And one of the things that
Okay.
the one that I think is the most, I mean, you hear people talk about all the time is these kids these days want to they want to become millionaires by being YouTubers. And it's like, well, yeah, because anything like, because that is actually their best shot at this point. Like, it's not
It is.
unrealistic. And one of the things that comes up constantly, so maybe I wasn't aware of it at the time. I know there's always been puritanism, but like, look at what OnlyFans is doing right now. OnlyFans is giving women, it can give men, also, but it's giving women some control over their own image in a
Yeah.
way that was not, like, yeah, there was Jenna Jameson 30 years ago making a fortune, and they were Playboy bunnies, but like
it immediately cut out the manager middleman
right,
in the process.
yeah,
And yes, it gave birth to people who manage OnlyFans models. I know a couple of them,
yeah,
but it is cut out so much of that
hmm
middle gap to
right,
where OnlyFans is paying the creator directly. Like
right.
there is nothing in between this.
But
And
do you?
that wasn't offered to women
But
even 10 years
keep
ago.
in mind. So when you go back to like the 50 years ago or 60 years ago when Playboy was starting, all the way up to let's say 2000, and
Mhm.
you look at like Playboy and you look at Jenna Jameson, you know, because I think she's probably like the last right before 2000 where it kind of in that gap. If you talk to like
Yeah.
you talk to a broy man kind of guy, and it's like, oh, you want to get with Marilyn Monroe? Nobody's like, Marilyn Monroe's been naked. Everyone's seen Marilyn Monroe naked. You want that? And we're doing that with OnlyFans as a society, and we did
Yeah.
not do that with Playboy bunnies, and we did not do that with, like, maybe Jenna Jameson because there was some
Oh.
sex going on there, but like you know, there's even with OnlyFans models who are just literally getting naked, there is this same like, I don't want everyone to see my future wife. Whereas, and I think that that's because it's like, oh, there's an actual opportunity for this person to make money, and it's becoming more commodified. It's becoming more democratized, as opposed to 50 years ago. It was like something like, oh, you know, I don't know enough about Playboy bunnies. Marilyn Monroe's the only one I can think of, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like that was you know, the swimsuit edition, or now that's, oh, you're on Instagram in
So,
bikinis all the time. And do you think the guy's going to want that? And I think that is a function
ah,
of like this new form of capitalism is like, that's how we're going to turn people on each other so that people can't get their way out again. Like, because we've done it forever, right? We did union busting. We did, you know, there always has to be an option. Like, you know, it's, you've seen The Dark Knight Rises.
yeah.
You know, there's like the wall that you can climb up to get out, but it's basically impossible. And it's like, because hope is how you control them.
Mhm.
You know, like you give them a little bit of hope so they don't completely revolt, but you don't give them enough hope or you don't enough chance that it's actually going to make a difference. And when you had Heather Locklear or Marilyn Monroe becoming Playboy models, and you know, it was like, yeah, like some people are going to, you know, sports is a great example. Like some people are going to get out and become LeBron and Michael Jordan, you know, like, you know, some people are going to get to that level, but it's so few and far between. But now, like, there's women that you and I have never heard of making
Yeah.
a huge amount of money through things like OnlyFans and Foot Finder, and because and so
Well,
like it makes it feel like it's not special, and I think that that's how we're now, like, it's not like Heather Locklear or Marilyn Monroe. It's any pretty girl or anybody who's is, maybe it's not even someone I find pretty, maybe it's just somebody who's willing to do something weird or has
yeah.
like a gimmick, or, and it's like that is arguably a good thing. Also, like
S-
we want to
Yeah.
shit on sex work as a thing, you know, and it's like, well,
That's as
you're
old as
giving up
time.
you're giving up your body. It's like, oh yeah, well, I worked at Home Depot and I loaded shit and broke my back, or I did that, like, and I was getting paid, you know, when I left Home Depot, I was making $10 an hour. When I worked at American Furniture Warehouse, where I literally injured myself, I was making like $10 an hour. And it's like, this is not, and those aren't like mean, it's not like if you injure yourself in the Peace Corps or doing something meaningful. I was not doing anything meaningful in any way that is more meaningful or better than an OnlyFans model, right? It's just less looked down upon, and that's how we've been able to. And sex has been a huge thing of how people have been controlled for centuries. That's why
Yeah.
it's so taboo. But now it's mixing with capitalism in a different way.
So it's interesting that you brought up that example, because to say that Phoenix International or Leonid Radvinsky, who's the owner of OnlyFans, he has a majority stake in Phoenix International now.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
we're
Phoenix
talking about.
International is.
So they're the owner of OnlyFans.
Oh, okay.
So if we are to say, like you and I are talking about the models or the creators being the people, so your angle of because it's more accessible, somehow now, like you were saying, the broy dudes would used to say, like being with a porn star or being with an adult entertainer was like some kind of thing to aspire to, Whereas now the women are wanting to aspire to that, but because of the male dominated like society, those people, meaning the creators, are now the ones who are like being vilified for being creators on there. And that
They're
was an
supposed to be an
interesting angle.
object. They're not supposed to be making their own money. They're supposed to be
Right,
like, it's
exactly.
supposed to be like, you look
How
pretty enough
dare
that
you
I'll take
be
care of you if you want me to. Not,
how dare you be an everyday looking person and do better than me, is almost how it feels
oh
to my
yeah.
ears, which is gross. So to say about these women making genuine life-changing money, but then you don't think Leonid's not exorbitantly wealthy? He is. He's a billionaire, and he's
Mhm.
an American billionaire. He's Ukrainian born, but he's an American citizen. To believe that he is not doing just as well is crazy. Of course he is, you know? And I used to work for a company that's oddly enough headquartered in Chicago. That was a major. They were OnlyFans was one of their major customers, and to see the amount of money OnlyFans would spend on just our product, let alone all the other products that they had.
Mhm.
So there's just the idea that like I I really I really like the idea that something like OnlyFans became a big deal because it really started with private Snapchat, and Snapchat really buckled down on that
Mhm.
so bad that a site like OnlyFans or Fansly like really blew up.
Mhm.
And I think it was interesting, and it kind of was very telling of the current space we're in. Do you remember when OnlyFans tried to bar nudity? It like
Yes.
it lasted for this long. They're
Yeah.
like, oh no, you can't do that. Oh, we're
They
sorry, we
lost.
mean you can.
It lasted one FAP cycle.
Right. Which for most dudes is an afternoon.
No, not a FAP session, a FAP cycle. Like literally what it takes start to finish. So like 3-4 minutes.
Right. So basically, as soon as it moved through all the time zones in 10 seconds, like,
Yeah,
no,
they
we're
were
good.
like, why did we experience like a huge downage, but Pornhub
Right.
spiked? But
Exactly.
there's another
So,
thing when it comes to not only the ability to make money that way, but also OnlyFans, to some extent at least, allows for a safer work environment, and that's something that like is constantly being like, whenever it comes to sex work, is constantly being thrown as to like why it's a big problem, is like you've got women getting coerced or like whatever on it's hard to tell when you're looking at like a regular porn video, like if the casting couch thing is real or an
yeah.
act or whatever. And like you're probably, but where if you're in your like living room, or you're like I'm
Hmm.
in my office in the house, right, doing this podcast, but like if I was a woman, and I guess it could be a man too making money that way, but and I just was like, oh, boop, and then like money comes in, nobody's forcing me, nobody, Sarah
Yeah.
isn't in the other room. I mean, not to say that there isn't opportunity for there to be corruption. There always is, but there is so much more opportunity to be like, oh yeah, like they're in their house, they're in their room, it's me and my spouse making videos together. There's plenty of that going on. There's like,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so like it's not just a matter of the money, it's also a matter of the safety. But that's part of
Hmm.
capitalism, is that like not only do
That's not
we,
offered in socialist countries.
right,
Like in a socialist country, you wouldn't be able to, like you said, have you and your wife legally or legitimately make content like that. You would either be arrested or jailed. Whereas here, because we have this free market, you can do that. You know.
yeah.
So it is completely different. Speaking of the gap in income, when you've got someone like Cardi B or Sophie Rain, so Sophie Rain is the highest highest grossing OnlyFans creator that isn't Cardi B, because Cardi B made 47 million, but she's not on there anymore. Sophie
Oh,
Rain
I didn't know
did
she was on there.
43. Yeah, she was on there for a short period. Sophie Rain did 43 million in 1 year. So if you don't think that Redvinsky made a goddamn good amount of money on her 43 million, you're
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Of course he did.
Yeah.
So there's this idea of, we know about Elon Musk being the CEO of Tesla, but he bought that company
Yeah.
just like he did at PayPal. So just because he is a face of something doesn't mean that there's not people way behind this.
Yeah.
So perfect example, because Microsoft and other major tech companies have had huge buyouts over the years. Valve, which is the company that owns Steam, which is where most every PC game is ever purchased. Gabe Newell is exorbitantly wealthy, but because he's a big bearded guy that looks like a fat Santa Claus, no one thinks he's a villain. Like if you look up Gabe Newell controversy, there barely isn't any. But he has a yacht just like Zuckerberg does. It's so an individual's how should I say this? An individual's public persona can have something to do with that, but no one thinks of Sophie Rain, the creator, as being a $43 million in revenue in a year. But at the same time, we're also not vilifying Radvinsky
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't make a lot of bad television appearances. But then you see Elon Musk dance on a stage with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
He's
I
kind
mean,
of a villain,
oh yeah, but there's all
So
okay. So here's another thing:
capitalism breeds villains just as much
it
as it
does
breeds
it
heroes.
does, but there's also a difference between opening a marketplace and making money off of the like entry
Yeah,
fee or a fee, which is what
good point.
YouTube does, and so many other people do. And that, not to say there isn't a problem in some of that, and there's an option for abuse in some of that, as opposed to hiring workers and paying them, pennies on the dollar. So, like, if
Yeah,
anything, these, YouTube and OnlyFans and podcast platforms and Steam are all places where there is someone at the top is taking a penny a transaction or 3 cents a transaction or whatever the case may be, but it is a different structural problem, and
it is.
it tends to have less problems than you need in order to live in this area. You need to make at least $20 an hour, so I'm going to pay you exactly $20 an hour, and I'm going to work you to the bone.
Yep.
Like, so is it better? In a lot of ways, I think the ability, like, if you're, again, there's a difference, like you and I probably couldn't make $43 million and on OnlyFans without working a lot of hours. I worked 43 million hours.
What if we work together?
Yeah.
Could we do it if we work together? Maybe.
Yeah. But the so there is there's still genetic lottery in it to some degree, right? But like,
Yeah, I didn't win that, so
no, and and arguably we're a decade late to the party if we were a little bit better looking,
there's that.
and women. I mean, because I think women make more money on it. I'm not
They
trying to
do.
shit on women, and it's
No, the market is flooded with women creators because the
yeah,
common consumer of that type of content is dudes. Let's not
yeah,
cut.
oh
Let's
yeah,
not cut our hand off here. It's obvious,
yeah,
but the ability to be able to the ability to have that is helping to close, but also making a transaction fee or a processing cost or somehow
mm-hmm.
commoditizing visitors to a site like YouTube does.
Yeah,
And then you look at something like Patreon,
yeah,
completely flipping on its head the creator sphere. When the adpocalypse happened on YouTube, it something like Patreon allowed people who were creators and were paid in AdSense actual ways to continue to feed their families.
mm-hmm.
And I am never, yes, I'm literally an online creator, but I am never going to, not be a little annoyed when I see someone taking a video of them dancing for their content. But at the same time, I'm not going to be annoyed any more than if someone was just, standing in my way when I'm trying to walk on the sidewalk. So it's,
Yeah,
I can
jealousy's
be
okay.
annoyed.
Jealousy's
Oh,
okay depending on
wow.
no,
You
I'm
went there.
serious.
Oh, shit. Come on, dude. It wasn't that at
How
all.
many
That's
hours
not
I
where I was
work.
going.
You know how many hours I work making this and Cinnamon and all the other stuff,
That's
and there
true.
are people who are doing less and who are successful or more successful than me because they're more charming, they're better looking, they're whatever. so jealousy is okay. It's how you exhibit your jealousy, and it's like okay to be like, yeah, does it make me go, oh, I wish I had, you know, a nice pair of
I
tits?
wasn't
No.
going there at all. Thanks. Jesus. No,
Sarah said that if I'm good, she'll get them for me for Christmas. So
she'll get you boobs for Christmas.
no, I'm just joking.
Her boobs or your own boobs?
Oh
Is
no.
she going to give you boobs to play with? Like, is she going to like rent a pair of boobs?
Mm.
You're,
She's just gonna get one in the middle, like
like an
Total
accessory
Recall,
tit,
like Total Recall,
like
the third tit.
the third tit. So I just really I like that. I like that things have brought genuine challenges to our capitalist economy that provide incomes or access to incomes that would not have already been available. I mean, the US is the land of the tech startup, right? Where there are companies commoditizing or monetizing the silliest sounding processes, but 100% something that everybody wanted. Once they release it, they're like, holy shit, I really did want an app that did that.
Mhm.
And now I use it every day. And this dude's making money. And this team is now wealthy beyond their expectations. So again, in true socialist countries, they would not be afforded that. But at the same time, like you said, unchecked or unfettered capitalism, late stage, is the issue.
Mhm.
And that's why it made for a good topic, because you and I are recipients of this. We both had salaries at a very large company. Neither of us have salaries at that large company anymore. That company didn't hurt to lose us.
Nope.
In fact, they're doing just fine without us, I imagine.
Some people
And
would argue that they are better off without
some people
us.
may even argue they're better off, correct. But it's the idea that the fact that we as white men in our 40s can apply to jobs and we're not, like I can look outside right now. These dudes are in 40 something degree weather digging holes and fixing planters down here on Michigan Avenue. I'm not going to say I want to go do that, but I don't think I'm below that. If I could stay in my house and take pictures of my feet and make 3 times what they did in an hour, yeah, I'd be doing that.
Yeah.
But I can't, and I'm not. So
I also
the
think
access is
okay.
about it.
I think one last thought, then I think we should start wrapping things up. When you talk about, you know, taking pictures of your feet, unfortunately, I used to believe this, but I think that people have now. I think we talked about it a little bit on an episode like a year and a half ago, but like people have made the idea of hard work is something that you should be proud of when you do it. It is not something you should require to, you know, like I think that there is like I work hard, that person doesn't work hard, I am better than that
Oh,
person. There is a moral implication. Now, if you
there's
work
a moral
hard
implication to
to
blue
take,
collar, like physical work. Yeah.
well, that and just the idea of like, I think that that's why like guys, you know, there's guys working blue collar jobs who are making more than I've ever made in my life. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of blue collar
True.
jobs are going to make more than I've ever made in my life at this point. And I don't
Yeah.
begrudge them that. I don't want, but
No.
sometimes people like that who are making that kind of money, maybe let's say they're making 115 because they're an electrician or whatever. They're making 115 a
Mm-hmm.
year. And they're like, well, some slut gets out and shows her tits and she makes 150. Why does she get to make more? And it's like, because that, first of all, you guys are free market people usually, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like a free market thing. But also, like, hard work it's one of those things where it is meaningful when you do it, but it is not a necessity to be meaningful. It's like you can look back and go, everything brought me to here, so I'm happy for everything that happened. It doesn't mean that everyone else has to look at everything else that brought them, you know, like, oh, I was in a car accident and now I'm here, you know, like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are for you to look inward at and see about yourself, but you don't apply it to other people. And I think that hard work is one of those things. Now,
Do you think
if you're,
capitalism made that?
I think that it's kind of always been there, but I also think that there's always been a need. And I think and I get it. If you're like, let's say you're working hard and you're carrying the bills for, you know, both of our wives are working really hard carrying the bills for us.
They are.
Like,
They are.
if if they were like, well, they're not doing anything, like that is not the same thing as what I'm talking about. Because Sarah is carrying me financially to whatever extent, and you don't need to comment if you don't want to. Holly is carrying you to
Mhm.
financially. I'm talking about like me as a guy. If I was working, as a landscaper, making whatever amount of money, even if it's good or bad, whatever. And for me to say like, oh, some girl in California who I've never met is like, that is the problem. It's okay for me to say, okay, in my little bubble of ecosystem, I pay for, or I am paid for, so I expect a certain level of work out of all of us to maintain like a family unit or a small community unit. That's different than I work hard, so everyone else has to work hard. I suffered to get here. You
Okay.
have to suffer to get here. Like, if you want to put
Oh,
that,
you mean like boomers do?
yeah, if you want to put that weight on yourself, I'm fine with it being introspective, but it should not be pushed on everyone else.
No, and I have never. I am not the guy who looks at a physical labor individual and sees myself as more or less than them, because like you mentioned, some of them are going to do quite well for themselves, but it also doesn't mean that I can't enjoy that feeling of success or completion when I do a physical work job, because I was in kitchens for 10 years.
I love the
But
feeling
at
of
this,
completion.
yeah, the completion is always like a good deep feeling of completion is always the best at the end of a
Like, you've just been
hard day.
drained.
You are spent.
Yep.
And the idea that those individuals have that access, and also that's what makes capitalism is kind of interesting, in that in a socialist economy, those individuals would never be able to do better for themselves if that was their job. But in a capitalist economy, there's nothing to stop these guys that are out on Michigan Avenue from becoming software programmers and sitting in a warm house right up above the building they're working in.
Yeah.
And, they're doing double their salaries in a month than what they made in a year. So there's kind of that idea of this land of opportunity that America has afforded everyone who comes here is one of the beauties of our capitalist economy. But without guardrails, it can really make it worse for everyone in it, including the ones doing well for themselves. It can make it worse for everybody.
Just like how masculine, the patriarchy hurts men as well, right? Like, it's that same feeling of like, just because something is dominant doesn't mean it's just projecting bad downward.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's start wrapping things up. This episode has been all about capitalism and late stage capitalism. So let's bring to you some small business
Messages.
capitalism. If you are watching this on the YouTubes, please like, subscribe, share, comment. We love comments. And that would be great if you do that. If you're listening to this podcast, give us a thumbs up on or a plus sign or whatever on your app of choice. If you are doing okay financially and we're like, oh, you know what? I want to give a little bit back into the economy and for a small business. There's only 4 of us that work for Chocolate Diamond Media, so
That's true.
So like, that's a real small thing. And you can go on to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff, and you can support us for as little as $1. You get the episodes early. $3 gets you some extra bonus content, and $10 gets you before the show, like, convo story, shoot the shit sesh.
Yep.
Also, if you're looking to support small business on Small Business Saturday or on Black Friday, if you wanted to do it, you can.
Or anytime before that, in fact.
The dinner party. Well, this video is coming out on Black Friday, so that's why you can't.
Oh, okay.
The dinner party, my first novel, is out, and I will be at the Raleigh Ironworks tomorrow for the Raleigh Book Fair for Small Business Saturday. It's a bunch of like, independent publishers, people who are making, like I said, like the knickknacks, like they're making like bookmarks and they're making book themed stuff. So that's a great way to support us. But you can also, if you feel the need, you could also go to Amazon or whatever else, but you can go into bookstores and get my book, have them order it for you. Or you can go to bookshop.org if you want to support a local business, because bookshop.org, when you're going through there and you buy a book, and do this for any book you buy if you want, you
It's
can
fulfilled by the local shop.
you select your local store and they get credit for it. So big bookshop.org is kind of that like marketplace doing the big thing like we talked about, but there's some money going out to not only the author you're supporting, but like, oh, I want to support Alleyway Books or so and so books in the Raleigh and Apex, and like you can go do that through bookshops.org. And that's all I've got. We don't have Matthew to give us a one-liner, so I'll just say thank you.
Matthew without the one-liner. Look, if you choose to worship at the Church of Black Friday, or if you choose to bow at the altar of late-stage capitalism, be aware of those around you. They might be in more need, and they might be in more need than you. So pay attention and do good by everybody in your community. If you're going to support with a purpose.
Mm-hmm. And to misquote the Ghostbusters, door busting does not make me feel good.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. If you have thoughts or questions or topics you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, drop us a line on our social media channels. Engage with this video when you are now watching it as a VOD on YouTube. Send us an email. We love hearing from our listeners, bringing us topics, because if you leave it up to the three of us, we're going to eventually be talking about underwater basket weaving. So we would appreciate you guys reaching out a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe to Talking About the Big Stuff on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Engage with it. Criticize us. We need to grow and be better, and you're going to help us be there. You're going to help us get to that point. It really helps us more to reach out and also to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more big ideas and more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep talking about the big stuff.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.